Hey, internet friends, it's Wednesday, and today what I'd like to talk about is a little bit more on the change of why and your purpose. So, when I say why, that's exactly what I'm referring to is, what's the purpose that you have? Why do you do what you do? And this, of course, is like I always say, it's beyond money. Money is a byproduct of doing what you like and doing it well. But why do you do it? That's the question. And even if the answer is money, what's the money for? Right? What do you get out of it? Is it providing a lifestyle for yourself, someone you care about? What do you do with it? Because otherwise, if the money has no value, it has no motivation. So I often am getting questions with a lot of my content that people are seeing on LinkedIn and on Facebook and Instagram and so on. And even here on YouTube, people have reached out to me a little bit. What I'm getting is some of my motivations and changes in motivators over the years that I've referenced, where I've said that my own values have changed over the years, and what I value most in my work life balance has changed, and the reason I do things has changed. And people say to me, well, how is it really value based if it changes? And that's a fair argument. Okay, but what I will say is that think about each life stage you're in. When you're younger, your purpose in life and doing what you love may be completely different than it is once you've matured a little bit and you have, say, a family, right? I don't know a single person out there that has children that didn't have their motivators change once they had kids. That's just one example. Okay. For me, it's been more around things that have happened to me and my family. So I can think of a few places in my life where my motivations have changed dramatically and what I value versus time versus money versus time with certain people versus health factors, all that stuff has changed. And, the first one that really stands out to me was being in a really bad car accident several years ago. And the short version of the story is I was hit by a drunk driver and actually broke my neck. Had several surgeries on my spine. And luckily for me, here I am 15, 16 years later, and I can still walk and everything else. So I was very fortunate, but it's still very life changing to go through that. And at the same time, I was actually being treated for a tumor in my brain. So again, something that really changes your look on mortality. And at that point, I realized that I didn't want to wait until I was retired at 65 or 70 years old to live my life. I was going to have time, one way or another, I was going to make time to do the things I enjoyed while I could still do them. Because first, there was no guarantee I was going to live that long. And second, even if I did, there was no guarantee that I was going to be in a physical condition where I would be able to enjoy things. Fast forward a few years, and you start to fall into the routines of working, 40, 50, 60 hours a week again. I went back to school, got a couple more degrees, those kinds of things. But in 2019, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. Now, her cancer was caused by a liver disease that had already taken her mother and her brother was struggling with. And since then, all of those people are gone. So in 2019, I had a decision to make about working full time for somebody else's goals or starting my own business, having the flexibility I needed, and being there for her to help care for her. And that's what I chose to do. After she passed, my motivations changed again. It was no longer about being there for her, it was being there for myself and my family again because they had been put on the back burner a little bit for a couple of years. And less than a year after she passed, I found out I have the same liver disease that took my mother, my grandmother, and my uncle. Now, luckily, we caught it for me early enough that I don't have cancer yet, which is good. But I do have a shortened life expectancy. So when people ask me why your motivators change, I would argue that my values and what is important to me hasn't changed. I still believe in working to live life, not living life to work. And I still believe in spending time with people and things that you care about. But how they get prioritized is what changes. So when I talk about your motivators changing and your purpose in life changing, it doesn't necessarily mean that who you are at your core and your ethics is changing. It's more about how the individual priorities in your life are changing in ranking. I'd like you to remember that if you're in a season where your priorities feel like they're shifting, that doesn't mean you've lost your values. It means you're growing. Just make sure you're choosing the shift instead of letting the crisis choose it for you. So I'd love to know what all of you think about that. If anybody has any thoughts, questions, hey, if you want to share a story, maybe talk about something you've gone through yourself, feel free to do that. That's what the comments are for. Or you can always reach out to me directly. The easiest way to find all my contact information is going to be at the website, jpcoachingnow.com. From there, you can find all my socials, my direct phone number, and my direct email address. I'm happy to talk with anybody, even if it's just to say, hey, I understand how tough it can be. But until next week, I hope everyone has a very successful week.